Welcome back to another episode of Unique Moments, where I talk about things from my unique perspective. Continuing with the universal laws, we have the law of polarity today. And I pre-shuffled a deck. I pre-shuffled the cards. And we got the dragonfly card. And it says magic on it. And it's really just kind of an affirmation, which I really like. And to me, it's just saying embrace the magic. Embrace the magic that is you. Embrace the magic that is in today. A brand new day. You got a brand new day. A brand new 24 hours. Brand new breath. Brand new life in your lungs. Brand new perspectives. Brand new thoughts. Brand new ideas. Brand new love. Brand new connections. Brand new opportunities. A brand new day. Thank God for that. Thank God for a new day. And so the card says, embrace my transformation. I courageously let go of the past. The magic of nature is in me. I am brilliant and I am blessed. Yes, yes, yes. We love it. We love it. We love it. Okay, so the law of polarity. So this law states that everything has an equal and an opposite. Law of polarity states that everything has an equal and an opposite. And so basically, to perceive one thing, we have to have the other for contrast. So basically duality, like we live in a world of duality. That's kind of difficult for me to accept because I feel like I dwell, emphasis on dwell in the land of gray areas. But for the purposes of this law, this is the way the universe works. This is law. So hot and cold, up and down, left and right, yin and yang, love and hate, health and sickness. It's all two sides of the same coin, basically. You can't have one without the other. You wouldn't be able to know what feminine was if we didn't have the opposite of a masculine to compare it to. You wouldn't know what cold was unless you had hot, something to compare it to. You wouldn't know what being healthy was unless you knew what being sick was, because you wouldn't have anything to compare it to. So that's how that kind of plays out. For example, with the whole love and hate thing, with relationships or even friendships, over time, say it's the most healthiest relationship ever, the most healthiest friendship ever. You guys hardly fight. You guys hardly argue. You guys hardly disagree. If you continue being in that relationship long enough, there's going to be some friction. There just has to be. And it could be small, it could be big, but there just has to be, to get back to that baseline, to get back to being friends again, or, making up and breaking up. It's a bit of a cycle. It's a bit of a cycle, even within the context of different relationships. It's either you're in one relationship and you're constantly making up, and not constantly, hopefully not constantly, but you're in one relationship and you're making up and breaking up in that, or you're making up and breaking up, or breaking up and hooking up with other people, because it's like a little cycle. Like you have to, in order to experience that love, that flirtation, that the positive feelings, you kind of have to know what the other side feels like. And hopefully you're in the positive side more than you are in the negative side. But even positive and negative, the polarities, the opposites, are two sides of the same coin. You can't have the positive without the negative. You can't have the sun without the moon. You can't have, you fast without slow. All of these things, it's just polarity. And it makes up the whole. And one of the things that is a good example of this is astrology, the zodiac signs. So there's 12 signs, but technically, if we want to get technical, there's really 6 signs with 2 poles at each. And so it makes 12. And that's kind of confusing. But basically, every sign has a sister sign or its opposite sign. But really, if you know anything about sisters, siblings, it's like you're kind of the same, but you're kind of different. Like you came from the same mom, probably came from the same dad, but you act so different, but you're alike. And that's kind of how the sister signs of the zodiacs are. It's like they're opposite, but if you look deep enough, you guys are kind of the same sign. And I think it exercises polarity a lot, because on the surface, it's like, well, that's totally opposite. But when you really look at it, it's like, oh, wow. So the sister signs are Pisces and Virgo. And then we have Aries and Libra, and Scorpio and Taurus, Gemini, Sagittarius, and Cancer and Capricorn. I feel like I missed one. Oh, Aquarius and Leo. So those are the sister signs. And so like, for example, the Pisces and the Virgo. So Pisces is like the creative dreamer, artist, no boundaries, no rules. I just want to exist. I want to exist in my little dream world, my little dreamland. And then its opposite, or its sister sign, Virgo, is like structure, judgment, like picky, particular, nitpicky. Like everything needs to be perfect. Everything needs to be in its place. Order. That basically all of that, all of everything that Pisces is not, like that is what Virgo is. But there are some Pisces tendencies in Virgo, and there's some Virgo tendencies in Pisces, because they're both of the same pole. Another example, let's say Aquarius and Leo. So Leo, super bright, super outgoing, super positive, super fun, super, let's say, I don't want to say into themselves, but let's say into themselves. Because let's say into themselves. They're just very, how can we say, they just love them. They just love them some them. And that's that. And then Aquarius is like more kind of weird, like eccentric, the humanitarian. They love to include people. They love to be about others. And they're not necessarily the life of the party. They might be in the background of the party, but they're still catering to the party. Whereas Leo would be, how can everyone in the party cater to me? Aquarius is, how can I cater to everyone in the party? And so that's another balancing of the opposites. And so it's just, you can't have one without the other, because inevitably that would be bad. If you're always caring for yourself, that's going to be bad. If you're always caring for others, that's going to be bad. And the same thing with hot and cold. If it's always, always, always hot, that's uncomfortable. If it's always, always, always cold, that's uncomfortable. You need both. You need balance. If someone's always happy all the time, you need balance. You need to shift the mood. You need to change the mood up. If someone's always sad all the time, depressing. You need to shift. You need to change the mood up. You can't just always be sad all the time, but you can't always be happy all the time either, because it like dulls that emotion. Even like success, failure and success. I'm not saying you have to fail in order to know how good success feels. However, if you just have win after win in your life, and you're just always succeeding, never failing, it almost would just, it just doesn't hold the same weight. It's almost like if you've never had to work for anything in your life, and things just come easy to you, or things are just given to you, or things just come naturally to you. It's not that you're not going to appreciate having a nice life, having a soft life, having a life where you don't have to worry and work hard. Of course, you're going to appreciate that if you're a sane human being. But when you've had to come from the depths, when you've had to struggle, when you've had to get it out the mud, when you've had to literally work for everything that you have in order to be successful, it hits different. You have a different kind of appreciation for it, because you've experienced the opposite, because you've experienced the polar opposite. You know how good food tastes when you've been hungry. You know how good water tastes when you've been thirsty. You know how good warmth feels when you've been cold. You know how good love feels and relationship feels when you've been lonely, when you've been isolated, when you've been by yourself. You know how good community feels. You know how good friendships feel, because you've experienced that opposite. And so that's kind of basically what the law of polarity states, is that everything has an equal and an opposite, and it's all necessary for balance. And that's also kind of comforting. Well, it kind of goes into the next law of rhythm, but you can't stay at one end of the pole for too long. So that's kind of comforting because it's always going to switch. It's always going to change. But that's also kind of anxiety inducing. It's like when you're on a winning streak and things are just happening, good things are just happening, but going all the way back to law of attraction and the law of vibration. On the one hand, law of polarity states that if you're having win after win after win, eventually you're going to experience the opposite because it's inevitable. Everything has an equal and opposite. You're going to experience the opposite end of the pole. However, law of vibration and law of attraction kind of states if you can ride out that high, if you can continue to vibrate in a state of heightened enjoyment and pleasure and excitement, if you can stay there for as long as you can, then you're going to keep experiencing things on that same vibration. And on that note, you will be at that end of the spectrum for a while, for as long as you can stand it. But everything has an equal and opposite. So I think being aware that you could be experiencing something unpleasant right now, but you're not, might be helpful. But yeah, it's all about duality. We live in a world of duality, unfortunately. But again, I live in a world of gray areas. Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? That's not really up for discussion. However, it is an observation that while we live in a world of duality, you too can live in a world of the gray area. Would not recommend dwelling there. However, it can open you up to new perspectives because everything doesn't have to be so black and white, even though it is, because that's the world we live in, because that's law. Everything is black and white. There's room. There's always room. So just continue to make room where there is room. Until next time.